thought opening my home to family meant safety. I was wrong. What I overheard that Wednesday afternoon would turn my grief into the sharpest weapon I'd ever wielded. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The prescription bottle rattled in my coat pocket as I turned onto Birch Avenue. Diabetes medication, monthly refill, routine as clockwork. But my hands gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary when I saw Evander's truck in my driveway. Black Ford F-150, chrome gleaming under Seattle drizzle. Wednesday, 3:15 p.m. He should have been at the construction site in Tacoma. I killed the engine and sat there staring at that truck. My daughter Rosalind hadn't mentioned him taking time off. Then again, she hadn't been mentioning much lately beyond how expensive everything had become. The front door opened without resistance. I'd stopped locking it after Miriam passed 18 months ago. The hallway stretched ahead, hardwood floors catching weak afternoon light. That's when I heard his voice. Evander's voice, low but distinct, coming from what used to be Miriam's sewing room at the end of the hall. The door stood slightly ajar. I moved quiet. 32 years as an insurance fraud investigator had taught me that sometimes you learned more by listening than asking. The floorboard near the bathroom always creaked. I stepped over it carefully. The old man's got maybe 3 years left top. Evander's voice carried that particular smugness. House is already appraised at $600,000. We're looking at $750,000 by the time he croaks. My hand found the door frame. The wood felt solid while everything else started tilt. Rosalind's working on him about the deed transfer, Evander continued, playing the poor struggling daughter card. He's so lonely since his wife died. He believes every sob story we feed him. Old fool doesn't suspect a thing. A pause, then laughter. Cold, sharp laughter. We don't even need to wait for him to die. Rosalind thinks she can get him to sign over the deed while he's still alive. Gift transfer, avoid estate taxes. Then we take out a reverse mortgage, cash out. He snapped his fingers. I heard it clearly. $500,000, easy money off a senile old bastard. The prescription bottle slipped. I caught it, but the plastic rustled. Hang on, Evander said into the phone. Then louder. That you, Leonard? I stepped backward. The bathroom floorboard betrayed me, that sharp creak echoing down the hall. Yeah, just got home, I called out, forcing my voice steady. Pharmacy took forever. Evander appeared in the doorway, phone still in hand. That easy smile plastered across his face. 29 years old, sandy hair, the kind of guy who called you sir while planning to rob you blind. Hey Leonard, took a half day. Concrete pour got delayed. He slipped his phone into his pocket. Need help with anything? No groceries, just medication. I held up the pharmacy bag. I'm good. I walked past him toward the kitchen. My hand shook as I gripped the counter, staring through the window at Miriam's overgrown rose garden. My reflection in the darkened oven door showed a 71-year-old man, gray hair thinning, liver spots, reading glasses on a chain. Perfect mark for a con, except I'd spent 32 years investigating fraud. I'd seen every scheme, every manipulation, every lie. I'd testified in court 47 times. I'd sent 19 people to prison, and I'd just overheard my own son-in-law planning to steal my house. The grief that had wrapped around me since Miriam's death suddenly lifted. In its place, something cold and clear settled into my chest. Not rage, just absolute clarity. I opened the drawer beside the sink, pulled out my small notebook, flipped to a blank page, wrote in precise handwriting, Wednesday, Oct. 18, 3:20 p.m. Overheard planning house theft. Exact words, gift transfer, reverse mortgage, senile old bastard, heir involved, working on him about deed transfer. I underlined gift transfer twice. The notebook went back in the drawer. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recording app I'd installed months ago when something felt off, pressed record, slipped it into my shirt pocket. Dinner happened the way it always did. Spaghetti with meat sauce, salad, Wednesday routine. We sat at the same table where Miriam and I had eaten for 43 years, and I watched my daughter and her husband the way I used to watch insurance claimants during depositions. Dad, you know how hard things have been for us financially. Rosalind picked at her post. Rent in Seattle is insane. Evander's hours got cut. I hadn't heard about cut hours. He'd mentioned overtime last week. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. And honestly, Dad, you're in this huge house all by yourself. 4 bedrooms. It's too much for one person. There it was, the opening move. I managed fine, I said. But what if you fell? What if something happened and no one found you for days? She leaned forward. We're family. We could help each other out. Maybe talk about long-term arrangements. Long-term arrangements. Code for signing over the house. That's a big decision, I said. Of course. Take your time. Her smile was bright, eager. I'm just saying, if you signed the house over to me, you could still live here. Nothing would change. Just one less thing to worry about. Except everything would change. They'd take out a reverse mortgage, drain the equity. When I died, the bank would own the house. They'd have pocketed $500,000 of my life's work. I'll think about it, I said. Evander's phone buzzed. He checked it, smiled, tucked it away. The confidence of someone who believed he was winning. I'd seen that look before, on insurance fraudsters who thought they'd fooled the investigator. The house settled into quiet around 10:30. I heard their bedroom door close, gave it 30 minutes, then walked to my bedroom and locked the door for the first time in 18 months. The safe sat in my closet behind a false panel. Combination lock 08-1752, Miriam's birthday. The dial clicked smoothly. I pulled out everything: bank statements, property deed, insurance policies, credit card bills, spread them across my bed under the lamp's light. Financial investigation is about patterns. I'd been doing this for 3 decades. My hands moved automatically, sorting papers, eyes scanning line items, credit card statement from June, family groceries, 420. But I remembered that trip we'd spent. Maybe July, household supplies, 380 years. I'd bought cleaning products and light bulbs, maybe 45 doors, wardings, emergency car repair, 1,240. My Honda hadn't needed repairs. Evander's truck had been in the shop, but he'd said insurance covered it. I opened my laptop, created a spreadsheet: dates, descriptions, amounts, discrepancies. 3 hours later, the numbers stared back: 340, 600 lotters over 14 months. Not carelessness, systematic theft. I leaned back in my chair. The house was completely silent. Through the window, I could see Evander's truck in the driveway, streetlight reflecting off chrome. My fingers drummed once on the desk. Old habit from when I found discrepancies. That particular rhythm meant I'd caught something big. Senile, old bastard, Evander had called me. I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Not for much longer, I said aloud. That night became the longest I'd spent in years. 4 a.m. now, and I'd moved past the paper trail. The Washington Secretary of State Business Registry opened easily. Public records, searchable by address. I typed in my house number. 3 results appeared. Cascade Properties LLC, 8 months ago. Registered agent, Evander James Whitmore. Principal address, 2847 Birch Avenue. My address, Summit Ventures Group, 6 months ago. Same agent, same address, Pacific Northwest Investments Inc., 4 months ago. Evander's name, my address. None had websites, no business activity, just shell companies. I took screenshots, Created a folder, evidence, fraud investigation, printed copies. My credit monitoring account came next. Premium service showing every inquiry. There it was. 2 months ago. Hard inquiry from Evergreen Financial Services in Seattle. I'd never authorized any credit check. My pulse ticked up. I opened a new document. Date 10/10/19. It's all 17 a.m. Event unauthorized credit inquiry. Hypothesis: identity theft, fraudulent loan. Outside, the sky turned pre-dawn gray. Pipes groaned. Footsteps above, someone using the bathroom. Time to move. I showered, shaved, changed. In the mirror, exhaustion showed, but also alertness. Focus. In the kitchen, coffee burbled. I was pouring the first cup when footsteps came downstairs. Rosalind appeared first, messy ponytail, sweatpants. Evander followed, checking his phone. "Morning, Dad." Rosalind opened the refrigerator. "Evander and I need to go to Portland this weekend. His cousin's getting married." I took a sip of coffee. "What day?" "Saturday. Leave Friday night, back Sunday evening." She grabbed orange juice. "That okay?" "Of course. Drive safely." Evander's head came up fast, suspicion flickering. He'd expected resistance. I gave him nothing but mild disinterest. Around 8:15, Evander grabbed his truck keys. "Gotta head out. Foundation pour today. I'll make chili for dinner," I said. "Sounds good." He paused. "Hey, Leonard, you think any more about the house?" "Still thinking," he nodded, but I saw calculation behind his eyes. I gave him my best doddering senior smile. "My brain doesn't work as fast as it used to." The relief on his face was almost comical. "Take all the time you need, old-timer." He left. The truck rumbled away. I turned to find Rosalind watching me. "Dad, you okay?" "Fine, sweetheart. Just tired." She grabbed her purse, kissed my cheek, left for work. The house fell silent. I counted to 100. Old investigator trick. Make sure they're really gone. Then I dialed a number I hadn't called in 2 years. Desmond Price. Attorney. Former colleague from my investigation days. "Leonard Gibson, thought you'd fallen off the earth. I need your help. Today if possible." The humor vanished. "What happened?" "Family fraud. My daughter and son-in-law stealing from me for over a year. Shell companies using my address. Credit card fraud. Possibly fraudulent loan in my name. They're trying to manipulate me into signing over my house deed." Silence for 3 beats. "Jesus Christ. How much?" 34,000 documented, possibly more. "I'm free at 2. Bring everything. I'll be there." I hung up and immediately dialed Evergreen Financial. "Thank you for calling Evergreen Financial. I'm calling regarding a credit inquiry." Leonard James Gibson. Social Security ending in 7043. Keys clicking. "Yes, Mr. Gibson. That was for a business line of credit application 2 months ago. You were approved for 25,000. Outstanding balance is my vision grade." "Stop. I never applied. Someone used my information fraudulently." The clicking stopped. "Sir, that's serious. Our records, I don't care what your records show. Someone forged my signature. I want copies of that application and I'm filing a fraud claim." 20 minutes later, I had the application downloading. The moment I opened it, I knew. The signature was close. Very close. But wrong. The G in Gibson had too much flourish. My actual signature had a sharp, cramped loop. The forgery had an open curve. Amateur work, good enough to fool a small lender. They'd stolen $25,000 in my name while living under my roof. I printed everything, added it to the file. The folder was getting thick. Good. Thick meant solid evidence. By noon, I had everything organized. Timeline, credit card statements with discrepancies highlighted, shell company registrations, fraudulent loan application, credit report, my notes, professional, thorough, irrefutable. At 1:30, I drove downtown to Desmond Price's office. Time to turn evidence into action. Desmond's office was near Pike Place Market. His receptionist showed me to the conference room. Desmond appeared, 73 now, silver hair, navy bow tie with anchors. Leonard, he shook my hand, studied my face. You look like hell. Didn't sleep. Sit. Show me what you've got. I spread everything across his table. Desmond put on reading glasses and started reviewing. 5 minutes passed, then 10. He turned pages methodically, making notes. Finally, he looked up. This is ironclad. 34,000 credit card fraud, 25,000 identity theft, shell companies, documentation of the house scheme. What do I do? Several things. Secure your assets immediately. File police reports. Serve them with eviction notice. Eviction? They're family. Desmond's expression hardened. Leonard, they're not family. They're criminals who happen to be related. Family doesn't steal $60,000. Family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't plot to steal your house. If this story reminded you of the injustices you've seen, follow the channel and turn on notifications, because wherever justice is delayed, a new revenge story begins. 60,000. I'd calculated 34, plus 25 from the loan. Do I have legal right to evict? Your sole property owner. No lease. They're guests who've committed felonies. Washington requires 30-day notice normally. But given criminal activity, we can file for emergency eviction. How fast? If we file today with fraud evidence, judge could grant it within 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days from now, they could be barred from my property. Do it, I said. File everything. I want them out. Desmond nodded slowly. Understand what this means. Your relationship with your daughter is over. Once we file charges and eviction, there's no going back. It's already over. I'm just making it official. All right, let's start with police report. We'll go together, right now. Then I'll draft eviction notice. We'll also need to change locks immediately. They're going to Portland this weekend, Friday night through Sunday. Perfect. We'll change locks Saturday while they're gone. When they return Sunday, they can't get in. We'll have eviction notice and police report ready. I pulled out my phone, played the recording from Rosalind's voice. Maybe you could just transfer it to me. Desmond's mouth pressed thin. That's attempted fraud. Clear intent to manipulate. We spent the next hour at Seattle Police Department. Detective Sarah Reeves took my statement. She listened while I laid out the case. Miss Gibson, this is one of the most organized fraud reports I've ever seen. Most victims come in with scattered receipts. You've built a complete investigation. 32 years as insurance fraud investigator. I know how to document. It shows. She photographed every page. We'll coordinate with Financial Crimes Unit. This will likely go to prosecutor. She handed me a case number and business card. Be in touch within 48 hours. Don't confront them directly. I won't confront them, I said. I'll just disappear their access. Back in Desmond's office, we finalized the plan. Friday evening, they leave. Saturday morning, 8 a.m., locksmith changes locks. Saturday afternoon, we box their belongings, store and garage. Sunday evening, they return and can't get in. What happens then? They'll call, you don't answer. They'll bang on door, you don't open. If they threaten or attempt forced entry, call 911 immediately. And eviction notice, ready to serve Sunday evening. They're legally notified, 72 hours to vacate permanently. I imagined the scene, Rosalind's face when she couldn't get in, Evander's rage. Part of me dreaded it. Most of me looked forward to it with cold satisfaction. One more thing, I said. My will. Need to change it immediately. Current beneficiary, everything to Rosalind. About $800,000 total. We'll draft new will today. Who do you want? Alzheimer's Foundation. In Miriam's name. She died of early onset Alzheimer's. I'll have it drafted tonight. You can sign tomorrow morning. I left his office at 5:30. Seattle evening was gray and drizzling. I sat in my Honda, watching people hurry past. 2 more days of performance, then the hammer would fall. Friday arrived. I woke early, reviewed the plan. Desmond had locksmith scheduled for 8 a.m. Saturday. Eviction notice drafted. My new will signed and witnessed. Everything was set. Rosen and Evander left at 6 p.m. Overnight bags packed. Truck loaded. They were laughing, making plans. Back Sunday evening, Rosen said, hugging me. Probably around 6. Drive safely. Love you, Dad. The words felt like broken glass. Love you too. I watched the truck pull away, tail lights disappearing. Then I counted to 500. At 500 I texted Desmond. They just left. We're clear for tomorrow. Response came immediately. Locksmith confirmed for 8 a.m. I'll be there at 9. I spent Friday evening packing, methodically, carefully. Rosen's clothes folded precisely. Evander's belongings in boxes, not anger. Professional documentation. By midnight, everything was packed and stacked in the garage. 8 boxes, 2 suitcases, 1 bin with documents. The house felt lighter, like removing a tumor. I went to bed around 1 a.m. and slept better than I had in weeks. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. exactly. Locksmith's van pulled in. Professional woman, 50s, competent, all exterior locks. She confirmed everything. High security, commercial grade. She didn't ask questions, just got to work. Front door took 20 minutes. I watched her remove the old lock, the one Evander had used for 14 months, and install the new one. The deadbolt slid home with a solid thunk that sounded like finality. By 9:30, every lock was changed. 3 sets of new keys in my palm. These are pick-resistant, bump-proof, drill-resistant, she explained. Someone's not getting in without a battering ram. Perfect. I paid cash. She left. At 9:45, Desmond arrived with coffee. We sat at my kitchen table, eviction notice ready, police report filed, will updated, credit frozen, passwords changed. He checked items off. Leonard, you're bulletproof. What if they break in? Then they get arrested for burglary. You have the police report on file. Any violence just adds to their charges. How do you think they'll react? Badly. Evander will be furious. Rosalind will try manipulation first. When that doesn't work, anger. Should I be here when they arrive? Absolutely. You're the homeowner. Just don't open the door. Don't engage. And if they escalate, call 911 immediately. Sunday dragged. I tried to read, couldn't focus. Kept checking my phone, checking the security camera I'd installed Saturday. Another precaution Desmond suggested. Around 5:30, text from Rosalind. On our way back, home in an hour. I didn't respond. At 6:15, headlights swept across the window. My heart rate kicked up, but my hand stayed steady. Through the window, I watched Evander's truck pull in, watched them get out, tired, stretching, watched them walk toward the door. Rosalind digging for keys. I stood at the window, phone in hand, 911 already typed. Waiting. Rosalind reached the door, inserted her key, turned it. Nothing. She tried again, jiggling, pulled it out, looked at it confused. It's not working, I heard through the door. Evander took the key, tried himself, harder, forcing. Still nothing. What the hell? He pounded. Leonard, the lock's broken. I stayed at the window. Didn't move. Leonard, Rosalind knocking. Dad, can you hear us? They tried the back door. I heard footsteps running around. Heard Evander cursing when that failed too. Back at the front, pounding got louder. Leonard, open this door. Evander's fist hammered. What game are you playing? Dad, please. Rosalind's voice cracked. I pressed call. 911. What's your emergency? I need police at 2847 Birch Avenue. 2 people attempting to break into my home. Are you inside? Yes, I'm the homeowner. I changed locks because they've been stealing. They're angry. Are they armed? I don't know. Male subject is getting aggressive. Units on the way. Stay inside. Through the glass, I watched Evander storm to his truck, pop the trunk, return carrying something metallic. A crowbar. Operator, he just retrieved a crowbar. Officers 3 minutes out. Do not engage. Evander raised the crowbar toward the lock. If you won't open it, I'll open it myself. Rosalind stepped back, uncertain. Evander, maybe shut up. This is my house too. In the distance, sirens. Evander froze, head snapping toward the sound. The sirens grew louder. I saw the moment he realized. His face went from rage to fear. Patrol car turned onto Birch Avenue, lights flashing red and blue. Then a second car. Evander still held the crowbar, frozen in my driveway. Rosalind stood behind him, hands over mouth, eyes wide, and I stood at my window, phone to my ear, watching justice arrive. This was it, the moment they learned the senile old bastard had teeth after all. The sirens cut through the quiet suburban evening like a knife. I watched through my window as 2 patrol cars pulled to the curb, lights painting my front yard in alternating red and blue. Evander still held the crowbar, frozen mid-swing, like a statue of his own stupidity. Rosalind stood several feet behind him, hands covering her mouth, finally understanding that something had gone very, very wrong. The first officer stepped out, young, maybe 30, hand near his belt in that careful way they're trained. He assessed the situation in seconds. Man with crowbar, distressed woman, lights on inside the house. Sir, put the tool on the ground. Now. Evander turned, startled. What? No, you don't understand. I'm not asking. Drop the tool, step away from the door. This is my father-in-law's house. He locked us out. We live here. That doesn't give you the right to break in. Tool on the ground. This is your last warning. Evander looked at the crowbar at the officer's stance, ran calculations, set it down slowly on the porch, stepped back, hands partially raised. The officer approached, kicked the crowbar toward the patrol car, stepped down off the porch. Both of you. Officer, please. Rosalind's voice shook. There's been a mistake. That's my father. Ma'am, step down. We'll sort this out, but first, everyone needs to be calm and separated. A second officer had emerged from the second patrol car, older, maybe 45, with that weathered look of someone who'd seen everything twice. He positioned himself near Rosalind and Evander as they moved to the front lawn. The first officer, his nameplate read, Officer Vance, approached my door, knocked firmly. Police, homeowner, can you come to the door? I opened it partially, keeping the chain I'd installed Saturday engaged. Sir, are you the homeowner? Yes, Leonard Gibson. This is my property. You called about a break-in attempt? Yes, that man, I pointed at Evander, tried to force entry with a crowbar after I changed the locks. Why did you change the locks? It's my house. I'm allowed to change my own locks. I kept my voice calm, factual. But if you need a reason, it's because they've been stealing from me for 14 months. I filed a police report Friday. Detective Sarah Reeves, case number 2024F. Officer Vance's expression shifted. He pulled out his radio, spoke quietly into it, confirming the case number. Can I see documentation proving ownership? Of course. One moment. I stepped back, grabbed the folder I'd prepared. Property deed with my name. Recent tax statement, driver's license matching the address, current utility bills all in my name. Vance examined everything with his flashlight. Thorough, professional, everything checks out. He walked back to where Rosalind and Evander stood, with the second officer, Officer Brennan, according to his nameplate. Explain your side, Vance said. Evander's agitation had ramped up. We've been living here over a year. You can't just lock us out. We have rights. Do you pay rent? Evander hesitated. It's a family arrangement. He's her father. We help him out. So no lease agreement, no rental contract. It's not like that. And tonight, when your key didn't work, you retrieved a crowbar and threatened to force the door. I didn't threaten anyone. I was just, sir, I have the 911 call recording, and I arrived to find you holding a crowbar at the door. That's attempted forced entry. Rosalind turned toward the house, voice breaking. Dad, please, just talk to us. I stood in the doorway. Officer, I don't want them on my property. How can you do this? Rosalind's voice hit a pitch I'd never heard. We're your family. Headlights swept the scene again. A sedan parked on the street. Desmond emerged with his briefcase, walked up with the confidence of someone who'd done this many times. Officer, I'm Desmond Price, attorney representing Mr. Gibson. Vance nodded. Counselor, my client contacted me when he changed his locks. I advised him of his rights as property owner. Desmond's voice was clear, professional. Mr. Gibson is the sole property owner. There's no lease agreement with these individuals. Under Washington law, he has the right to determine who resides in his home. What about tenant rights? Vance asked. They've been living there over a year. Without a rental agreement, they're legally considered guests. Guests can be asked to leave. If they refuse, formal eviction proceedings may be required, but the property owner has the right to change his locks and refuse entry. This is insane, Evander shouted from the lawn. You can't just throw people out on the street. Desmond ignored him. Additionally, my client has documentation showing financial fraud committed by the son-in-law using Mr. Gibson's address and personal information. We've filed formal charges. Detective Reeves at Seattle PD has the complete case file. Vance and Brennan conferred briefly. Decision made. Vance approached Evander. Sir, turn around. Hands behind your back. What? You're arresting me? Attempted property damage, attempted forced entry, disorderly conduct. This is ridiculous. I'll sue. The handcuffs clicked into place. Evander resisted verbally but not physically smart enough not to make it worse. Brennan read him his Miranda rights while Vance secured the cuffs. Rosalind rushed toward the porch where I stood with Desmond. How could you? We're your family. I met her eyes, voice steady. This was the moment. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't sit around planning how long until I die so they can take my house. Rosalind went white, froze completely. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She knew. She knew I knew. What would you do at this point? Write it in the comments. Your thoughts are as important as the story itself. He knows, Evander called from the patrol car. How? Dad, we were just, Chester said. Don't insult me by lying anymore. I kept my voice level. I heard Evander on the phone Wednesday. Exact words. Senile old bastard. Gift transfer. Reverse mortgage. You were working on me, playing the struggling daughter. It was all planned. Desmond opened his briefcase, removed a document, handed it to Rosalind. This is formal notice. You're prohibited from entering or approaching this property without the owner's explicit permission. Violation constitutes criminal trespass. Rosalind held the paper with shaking hands. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my client's concern, Desmond said crisply. Your belongings are in the garage. You have 24 hours to arrange pickup with police escort. Everything's packed, I added. Your documents are in the separate box. Birth certificates, social security cards, everything you'll need. Vance escorted Evander to the patrol car, placed him in the back seat. The cage between front and back seats separated them now. Evander sat there, handcuffed, staring at me through the window with pure hatred. I stared back, didn't look away first. He did. Brennan took statements from me, from Desmond, from my neighbor Brian Turner, who'd walked over from next door and confirmed hearing the shouting and seeing the crowbar. You'll need to come to the station tomorrow to file a formal report on the attempted forced entry, Vance told me. Bring your documentation. I'll be there. He turned to Rosalind. Ma'am, you need to leave the property now. But our things. You heard the attorney. 24 hours with police escort. For now, you need to go. Rosalind walked slowly to the truck, got in the driver's seat, sat there for a long moment, shoulders shaking, finally started the engine, pulled out of the driveway. The taillights disappeared down Birch Avenue. The patrol car with Evander inside followed in the same direction, taking him to King County Jail for booking. The front yard emptied. Just me, Desmond, and Brian. "You all right, Otis?" Brian asked quietly. I exhaled a long breath. "I will be. We're just getting started," Desmond said. "Tomorrow we file the fraud complaint formally. The attempted forced entry tonight adds another charge." I nodded. One step at a time. I looked at my house. My house, not theirs. Lights on inside. Door still open where I stood. For the first time in 14 months, I could breathe in my own home. Desmond closed his briefcase. "Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow continues." I watched him walk to his car. Brian gave my shoulder a supportive pat, returned to his house. I stood alone on my porch. In the distance, more sirens heading elsewhere. Someone else's emergency now. I stepped inside, closed the door. The new lock clicked solidly into place. The weekend passed in deliberate silence. Saturday morning arrived with coffee and a newspaper I couldn't focus on. My phone showed 12 unread messages, all from Rosalind. I glanced at them periodically, but never unlocked the screen to read them fully. Just saw the preview text. "Dad, please answer. We need to talk. This is insane. I can't believe you're doing this." After everything, I muted her number, not blocked. I wanted to see what she sent, but on my terms. Late Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "This is King County Jail automated notification system. Evander James Whitmore has been released from custody on bond posted at 900 hours today." I listened to the full message. Evander made bail. $5,000. I wondered where they'd found that money. Didn't matter. By Saturday afternoon, I finally scrolled through Rosalind's complete messages. Thursday night, "Dad, please answer. We need to talk." Friday morning, "I can't believe you did this to your own daughter." Friday afternoon, "Remember when Mom died and I stayed with you for 3 weeks? This is how you repay me." Friday evening, "Evander made mistakes, but we're family. You're supposed to forgive family." Saturday morning, "You're going to regret this. You're going to die alone and bitter." Saturday after bail, "We're not giving up. You can't just throw us away." I read each one twice. Didn't respond. Instead, I took screenshots, documentation, then left her number muted. The message about Miriam cut deeper than the others. Rosalind knew exactly where to strike, but manipulation doesn't work when you recognize it for what it is. Monday morning, the mail arrived around 10, bills, advertisements, and one official-looking envelope. Return address, Davidson and Partners, Legal Services. I opened it at my kitchen table. Letter on cheap letterhead, addressed to Leonard James Gibson, from attorney Harold Davidson, representing Evander Whitmore, and Rosalind Gibson. Claims of unlawful eviction without proper notice, allegations of emotional distress and loss of personal property, demand for $30,000 within 10 business days, or face civil litigation, threats of maximum damages, including court costs and punitive penalty. I photographed the letter, emailed it to Desmond with subject line, "They hired an attorney." He called back within an hour. I looked up Davidson, bottom-tier lawyer, mostly traffic tickets. "This letter is laughable. Should I ignore it?" "Absolutely not." I'll respond formally, citing their lack of lease, Evander's criminal charges, and the trespass order. "This will go nowhere." He paused. "How long until Evander's court date?" "Preliminary hearing is in 3 weeks." "Good. That gives us time to build the fraud case properly." "Have you called Detective Reeves?" "That's next on my list." I hung up and dialed the number on Detective Reeves' card. "Detective Reeves, Economic Crimes Unit." "Detective, this is Leonard Gibson, case 2024 FR 8847. I have additional information about the fraud." "Mr. Gibson, good timing. I was about to call you. We've been digging into those shell companies. Found something interesting." My pulse ticked up. "What?" "Evander Whitmore has done this before, 3 years ago, in Spokane. Different victim, Same pattern. Registered businesses using someone else's address, took out fraudulent loans. That case was dropped when the victim, elderly woman, 81 years old, died before trial. I gripped the phone tighter. So he's a serial predator. Looks that way. Also, we ran those credit inquiries you flagged. Evergreen Financial confirmed the loan application was fraudulent. They've written off the debt and flagged Whitmore's information in their system. What about the credit card charges? Still investigating. Your documentation is solid. I'm meeting with the prosecutor Wednesday to discuss formal charges. Can you come in Thursday morning? We'll need a detailed statement. I'll be there. And Mr. Gibson, this is one of the strongest fraud cases I've seen. You built this investigation better than most detectives. 32 years practice. Thursday morning, 9 a.m. I was back at Seattle PD. Detective Reeves led me to an interview room, not interrogation. This was victim interview. Table, chairs, recording equipment. Reeves started the recording, stated date and time, identified everyone present. Mr. Gibson, walk me through the timeline chronologically. I did. When they moved in, when I first suspected something, how I discovered the shell companies, the credit card fraud, the overhead, conversation. Every detail documented. Reeves took extensive notes. Did you ever authorize Evander Whitmore to use your personal information for business purposes? Subscribe and stay tuned so you don't miss any true revenge stories. Sometimes, even silence is the strongest form of revenge. Never, not verbally, not in writing, not implied. Did you sign any documents he provided? No. The signatures on those business registrations are forgeries. I can prove it. I have samples of my actual signature going back 40 years. She flipped through her file. Let's quantify the losses. Credit card fraud? $34,600 over 14 months. The fraudulent loan? $25,000 from Evergreen Financial, currently in default. Total financial loss? $59,600 plus damage to my credit score, which affects my insurance rates and future borrowing capacity. Reeves leaned back. Miss Gibson, you understand what we're looking at. Identity theft, forgery, fraud. In Washington, these are serious felonies. I understand. Your son-in-law could face 5 to 10 years in prison if convicted on all counts. I paused, met her eyes. He targeted me first, planned around my death like I was already gone. I'm just bringing the truth to light. That's all we need, the truth. She opened another folder. Evergreen Financial provided the loan application. I need you to examine this signature. She showed me the document, my forged signature, my social security number, my address. The application claimed business expansion for Summit Ventures Group, listed me as owner. I examined it through my reading glasses, close, but wrong. The G and Gibson looped different. My real signature had a sharp angle from decades of signing insurance claims. The forgery had a rounded curve. Amateur work, I said, but good enough to fool a loan officer who wasn't looking closely. That's what the document examiner said too. We're also finding evidence that Evander intercepted your mail to hide the loan statements. My jaw tightened. How? We pulled security footage from your neighborhood. 3 separate occasions over the past 2 months. Evander was filmed at your mailbox in the early morning, before you typically check mail. He was screening what came in, removing anything related to the fraudulent accounts. Systematic, calculated, predatory. What happens next? I asked. We'll request arrest warrant for additional charges: identity theft, forgery, fraud, mail theft. Given he's already out on bail for the attempted forced entry, the judge might revoke bail, meaning he goes back to jail and stays there until trial. Good. The interview lasted 2 hours. I signed the formal statement, 6 pages of detailed testimony. Reeves provided her case number and direct contact. I left the station and drove home. The afternoon sun was bright, almost mocking after the fluorescent reality of the police station. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my driveway. Text from Desmond. Evander's attorney called. Wants to negotiate. I told him we're not interested. Trial proceeds. I texted back. Good. No deals. That evening I sat in my office, Miriam's old sewing room, and looked at the timeline I'd built, every transaction traced, every forgery documented, every lie exposed in black and white. This is what I'd done for 32 years at the insurance company. Follow the money, find the truth. Evander had chosen the wrong mark. 2 weeks, Rosalind's texts became less frequent, then stopped entirely. Evander's preliminary hearing came and went. He was formally charged with 7 counts: attempted burglary, attempted property damage, disorderly conduct, identity theft, forgery, fraud, and mail theft. Bail was revoked. Back to King County Jail. Detective Reeves called with updates. The prosecutor was pursuing maximum sentences. Evander's prior case in Spokane had been reopened. That victim's family was filing a civil lawsuit. Everything was moving forward with mechanical precision. But there was one more piece I needed to address. Wednesday afternoon, I called Desmond. I want to talk about Rosalind. What about her? She wasn't arrested. No charges filed. She's still out there. Because we don't have evidence she directly participated in the forgery or identity theft. She pressured you about the house. But that's not technically illegal unless we can prove she knew about Evander's fraud. So she gets away with it. Not entirely. The eviction stands. She has no claim to your property, and your will excludes her completely. But criminal charges, without solid evidence of her direct involvement, the prosecutor won't file. I sat with that for a moment. She knew. She had to know, probably, but knowing and proving are different things. That night, I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about Rosalind, my daughter, the little girl who used to bring me breakfast in bed on Father's Day, the teenager who'd cried on my shoulder after her first heartbreak, the woman who'd stood by Evander while he systematically stole from her own father. Maybe she'd been manipulated, maybe Evander had controlled her, or maybe she'd chosen him over me, over basic decency, over everything I'd taught her about right and wrong. Thursday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number again. Mr. Gibson, this is Rosalind. I almost hung up. Didn't. I'm listening. Can we meet? Just talk. Neutral location. Please. Why? Because I need you to understand. Please, Dad. 30 minutes? That's all I'm asking. Against every instinct, against Desmond's advice, I agreed. Mountain View Coffee. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. 30 minutes. No more. Thank you, Dad. Friday morning arrived cold and gray. I drove to Mountain View Coffee. Arrived early, chose a corner table, watched the door. Rosalind entered at 10:05. I barely recognized her. 20 pounds lighter, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes, exhaustion in every line of her face. She sat across from me, wrapped her hands around a tea mug she'd ordered. Thank you for coming. You have 30 minutes. I destroyed everything, didn't I? Her voice was quiet. After Mom died, you shut down. I felt abandoned. Evander paid attention to me. By the time I realized what he was, we were married, and I felt trapped. That doesn't explain planning around my death. I never planned that. Evander did. I knew he wanted the house eventually, but I didn't know he was going to. I should have stopped him. I was weak. I leaned forward. You felt abandoned, so you helped him steal from me. You enabled every lie, every manipulation. Silence is agreement, Rosalind. Tears streamed down her face. I know. I'm sorry for everything, for choosing him over you. Sorry doesn't fix broken trust. I know. She pulled out a tissue, wiped her eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just apologizing, because you deserve to hear it. I sat back, studied my daughter, saw genuine remorse, also saw the girl who'd loved me once, before Evander and greed had poisoned everything. Rosalind, I loved you your entire life, gave you everything I could. What happened broke something fundamental. I don't know if it can be fixed. I understand. She looked down at her tea. Can I ask, is there anything, any way back? Long pause. I don't know. Not today. Maybe someday. Maybe never. That's it? We're just done? We're done being who we were. What we become depends on time and whether real change happens. She nodded slowly, accepting. For what it's worth, I filed for divorce yesterday. Evander's attorneys were served in jail. Good, that's a start. I stood. Time's up. Will you ever call me? Focus on yourself. That's the point. I grabbed my jacket. Good luck, Rosalind. I mean that. I love you, Dad. I love you too, but love doesn't mean trust, and it doesn't mean proximity. I walked out of the coffee shop behind me, her quiet sobs. I didn't look back. In my car I sat for several minutes, hands on the steering wheel, the hardest mercy I'd ever given. Then I drove home. Evander's trial was set for December, 8 weeks away. The prosecutor called it one of the strongest fraud cases in King County this year. 17 separate charges. 3 victims identified me, the Spokane woman's estate, and 1 more victim in Tacoma who'd come forward after seeing news coverage. Serial predator, facing 20 years minimum, if convicted on all counts. I didn't attend every hearing, didn't need to, just provided testimony when requested, supplied documentation when asked, let the system work. December arrived with snow. The trial lasted 5 days. I testified on day 2, walked the jury through the timeline, the evidence, the overhead conversation, showed them the forged signatures, the shell companies, the credit card statements. Evander's defense attorney tried to paint me as vindictive. Mr. Gibson, isn't it true you were angry about a family disagreement? I was angry about theft. There's a difference. You changed the locks while they were away. That seems vindictive. I secured my property after discovering fraud. That's protection, not vengeance. You never gave them a chance to explain. I gave them 14 months to be honest. They spent that time stealing. No explanation changes that. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty, all 17 counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Maria Castellanos showed no mercy. Mr. Whitmore, you've conducted a systematic campaign of fraud targeting vulnerable victims. This court sentences you to 12 years in Washington State Penitentiary, followed by 5 years supervised release. You will pay restitution to all victims in the amount of $87,000. 12 years. Evander would be 41 when he got out. I'd be 83 if I was still alive. I walked out of the courthouse into December snow. Desmond waited on the steps. It's done, he said simply. It's done, I agreed. We shook hands. 35 years of friendship, and he'd helped me through the worst crisis of my life. What now? He asked. Now I go home. I live. I heal. Christmas came and went quietly. I spent it alone, which didn't feel as sad as I'd expected. New Year's arrived. I made resolutions: take better care of my health, reconnect with old friends, maybe volunteer somewhere, live, not just exist. January brought a letter, handwritten, Rosalind's writing. Dad, I know you said maybe never, but I wanted you to know I got a job at a dental office in Tacoma, got my own apartment, seeing a therapist twice a week, trying to figure out who I am, without Evander. I don't expect anything from you, just wanted you to know I'm trying. Love, Rosalind. I read it twice, set it on my desk. Didn't respond immediately, but I didn't throw it away either. February arrived, 18 months since Miriam had died, 14 months since Rosalind and Evander had moved in, 4 months since I'd changed the locks and called the police. I stood in my kitchen one morning, coffee in hand, looking out at the rose garden. The bushes were pruned now. I'd finally done it in January. Pink blooms would come in spring. My phone buzzed. Text from Brian next door. Coffee later. Got something to show you. I texted back. 2 p.m. works. At 2 I walked over. Brian had a photo album open on his kitchen table. Found these in my attic. Pictures from neighborhood block parties. Thought you might want to see. I flipped through photos from 10, 15, 20 years ago. Me and Miriam laughing at a barbecue. Rosalind as a teenager, playing volleyball in someone's yard. Simpler times. You miss her, Brian said. Not a question. Every day. Miriam, I mean, Rosalind. I paused. I don't know what I feel about Rosalind. She's trying from what I hear. Got a job. Living clean. I know, you think you'll ever talk to her again. Maybe, when I'm ready, or maybe never. I don't know yet. Brian nodded. Fair enough. I looked at the photos. My old life, frozen in snapshots. That life was gone. The question was, what came next? March arrived. Spring, cherry blossoms, life renewing itself. I was in the garden, planting new roses when my phone rang. Desmond, Leonard, Rosalind's attorney called. She wants to know if you'd be willing to have lunch. No pressure, no agenda, just lunch. What did you tell him? That I'd ask you. I looked at the roses I was planting, Miriam's favorite, pink blooms that would grow and thrive if I took care of them. Tell him maybe, in a few months, when I'm ready, I'll pass that along. I hung up and returned to planting, one rose bush at a time, one day at a time. Healing didn't happen all at once. It happened in small moments, quiet decisions, tiny steps forward. I'd changed the locks on my house 4 months ago, but the real locks, the ones around my heart, those would take long. Maybe I'd open them someday, or maybe I wouldn't. Either way, I was finally free from theft, free from manipulation, free from people who saw me as a mark instead of a father. The garden needed tending, the roses needed planting, life needed living, and for the first time in 18 months, I was ready for it. The sun was warm, the soil was rich, the future was uncertain, but entirely mine. That was enough. The end. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.